there is no magic number.
We're the Armed Attorneys. Today we're talking about whether your age or status as a senior citizen affects your right to self-defense. We're going to be talking about the black and white law, what juries kind of perceive, and what we see in the laws across the states. But before we begin, show your support for the Second Amendment by hitting that like button and sharing this video. But to start the conversation, we're joined by Edwin Walker. Edwin, when we're talking about, whether you can defend yourself, does being a senior citizen come into play?
Well, there is no magic number in that the law does not specifically provide that an individual who is a senior citizen gets more rights to self-defense. However, from the jury's perspective, they can take an age into consideration whenever they're deciding whether or not an individual acted in a reasonable fashion when deciding to use force or deadly force.
And when they're looking at reasonableness, we look at kind of the two parts to it: the subjective reasonable belief held by the actor, the defender in this case, at the time that they acted in defense, and kind of the objective circumstances or the objective reasonableness that is kind of a guard on unreasonable subjective beliefs. And so what a jury will be allowed to do, they'll get to look at a person's specialized knowledge. Hey, I have health problems. Maybe I have mobility issues. Maybe I'm in cancer treatment. I'm particularly weak. And they'll get to consider that when looking at, let's say, proportionality would be a good example. Healthy 25-year-old, 220 pounds, solid muscle versus maybe someone who's a little bit older who has these ailments. And when we're looking at that reasonableness component, don't you think juries, they can see a difference between those two characters?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And so most states' laws, whenever they're considering reasonableness, that's judged under this objective standard, which is an ordinary and prudent person in the same or similar circumstances. And so any circumstance that an individual is able to bring up as to why they felt a particular belief, why they thought a threat was imminent, why they thought a threat could deal them death or serious bodily injury, they will be able to fully testify to their age, health problems, anything else that would cause them to be less than a fully functioning physical individual.
And while the senior citizen status may not be reflected in the black and white law of the self-defense statutes, we do see it come up in the assaultive statutes. We see a lot of different states saying, hey, person, you typically 65 years of age or older, we are going to enhance or penalize people who assault elderly. We also see this with disabled individuals or those who maybe suffer from mental health disorders. And so they give them this kind of protected status. On top of that, we do have a handful of states that say maybe you have a legal presumption of reasonableness or you're justified in the use of self-defense, use of force or deadly force in response to a forcible felony. So we see a lot of what would otherwise be misdemeanor conduct elevated to the level of a felony when used against a senior. Do you see that?
Yes, absolutely. And the thing about it is that the defense attorney, a skilled defense attorney, will be able to use this in their favor by telling the jury that, look, what ordinarily may have been a misdemeanor assault is a felony. And so the defense attorney will get up there and pound the table and say, look, this man was protecting himself against a felony assault. And just the word felony assault is much more powerful to a jury than just thinking that you were defending yourself against some random misdemeanor.
But it's one of those factors. All of the other elements of what makes a good self-defense case still need to be present, but this is definitely a big consideration for a jury. We hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, hit that like button, consider subscribing, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video. And until next time, we're the Armed Attorneys.